Happy Monday, everybody. Hope your week is starting out great. As a reminder, if you want to learn a little bit more about the elements of the Monday practice, check out the link in the description. It takes you to an intro video. Also, like, subscribe, leave any comments. We always appreciate feedback or questions that we can dive into. But with that, let's jump in. So we've been doing the last few weeks of folding as a concept, and we're going to finish up with folding this week. And we're going to do that by kind of defining a little bit of a definition. So folding occurs when multiple substances are brought together either through layering and mixing or weaving them in different ways. And what's important is to understand that the different elements that are being woven together are unique and separate in their own kind of existence. But then when you mix them together, they're woven, they're intertwined, but they're not adhered to, or they don't become the other. They are still separate entities woven together. And this is important when you get to talking about integration, because before integration, you have steps like waking up to something that actually has a life of its own and differentiating that thing from the whole, and then reintegrating those elements back together for a more cohesive, conscious organism. And so this is what we're going to be exploring this week in terms of the concept of folding. Our practice is creative thinking. And creative thinking is really about, when you're facing an issue or a problem or something that you need to work out, how many different ways can you look at that from different perspectives to come up with a solution or a response that really meets the need and covers as many bases as you can hit with one response. And so notice a place where the systems are not integrated and come up with a movement to integrate them. So in this case, this week, we're going to explore, I have my thinking, my feeling, and my willing, or my nervous system, my cardiovascular system, my metabolic system. And let's say there's kind of my inner soul life that lives into those different physical systems in my body. Now, if one of those systems kind of takes over and hijacks the other two, it might inhibit and create a lot more stress or an imbalance in the system. And so what our reflection is this week is when you notice an imbalance happening in yourself, what can you do from a movement standpoint to rebalance them? So for example, I used to be a distance runner back in the day. Before a race, I would get nervous. I'd feel the butterflies. I'd start getting anxious about the outcome of the race. Was I going to be able to perform? And I would always do a little bit of stretching, a little bit of breathing, and I would yawn. And if I yawned when I was feeling that nervous, it was the sign that my body was like kind of reintegrating and my nervous system was relaxing so that my body could really do the work that I was going to ask it to do in the race. So that was a good sign. And so look at different ways when you feel like maybe you're in overdrive and you need to slow down. What are movement practices that you can use to ground yourself, to breathe, to regulate your nervous system that bring back the balance and harmony of those three interweaving elements? The value for this week is I learned from my environment, the natural world. How does the environment around you reflect your own habits back to you? So it's often been a theory for me that, as a leader, as a person, whatever responsibility you have for the environment, however you move in it, that environment reflects your activity. So let's say I don't take care of my property, it's going to start eroding, etc. That might be a reflection of me maybe not taking care of myself. When I take care of myself, I know, hey, there's important things that I got to do to make my body healthy. That concept then reflects out to the space that I live in, and then I take care of the space around me too. And so in this kind of becoming aware of what the environment is teaching us, look around and see how you're moving. This could be from a social standpoint, a structural, physical standpoint, spiritual aesthetic standpoint. Notice the quality of the culture, of the aesthetic feeling of that, and see if there's any lesson back to you that could help you look at yourself and say, hey, is there something I'm doing that's perpetuating something that I don't want? Or something that I am doing that's perpetuating something that I do want? How can I enhance that? So this is the week. Folding, working on the definition, creative thinking, and learning from my environment, the natural world. So coming to the infographic, you have this great picture of multiple colored strands interweaving. And it's important to notice that the blue and the green don't become a blue-green. They stay their own separate colors, even though they're intertwined and intimately connected. And the whole point is that there's these elements that can stay differentiated from each other while being integrated in really creative, complicated ways. And so we're working with kind of these three elements of myself: the metabolic or will force, the cardiovascular feeling life, the nervous system or the thinking life of the human being, and really exploring the unique characteristic of each one of those and how it relates to the others. So for example, my blood system moves through the body, kind of sensing, where my body needs oxygen, where my body needs different resources. The nervous system can direct that at some level, by going into fight or flight mode, for example. But there might be times where you need resources in a different place than where fight or flight might direct those resources. And you want to learn to get control of yourself so that you're the director and not the system itself. And so that gives a little picture of what the goal that we're shooting for to start developing is a harmony, is a synchronicity, like two dancers moving together with these three elements of yourself. That comes down to, just as I was saying, paying attention to what system might be overacting, and then how do I mitigate that? How do I move with it? So let's say if my body is in fight or flight, how do I reduce the threat for myself, relax, by breathing, feeling my feet on the ground, doing a movement that is counter to or bringing back the harmony between those three elements of yourself that got off, and therefore then being able to move forward in a more effective way. And then letting the environment in many ways tell you where those things might be off. Because the beauty of the natural environment is it tells you when you've perpetuated a habit for an extended period of time, the culture and the environment around you starts acting in the way that habit is manifesting through your actions. And so that you use the natural environment to help you reflect back on yourself and make changes and adjustments to those alignments and those integrations and foldings that are happening within yourself. So this is this week's Monday practice, wrapping up the full concept of folding. Thanks for tuning in. As always, bite sizes, and let's go forward and awaken the possible.